I'm Tommy. I'm not a student or anything. I'm just trying to figure it out. I have a question about the immutability of God. So the idea that God is ever present and never changing. How do you reconcile that with petitionary prayer? What's the point in asking God for things when he doesn't change? So how can he change his mind?
Yeah, I think
A couple of things, sorry.
Yeah,
there
yeah.
were some big words there. Not all of us are big words people. Can you...
I'm not a big word person.
Well, you brought the big words today. Can you just put that in plain English for us? His question may be rephrased for the undergraduate students here.
If God is unchanging, then how do I expect my prayer to change God's behavior? Is that kind of a fair way to put it? That's perfect. Yeah, so I mean, hasn't God already decided? And I think first I'm going to not take issue with it because it's a classic word, immutability, this idea that God is unchanging, but ask, how is the Bible actually teaching that? Because, there's this thing that some parts of what we might call, and again, I'm going to sound like a theology geek because I am, but what we might call a classic theism have as much to do with Greek philosophy as they do with the teaching of the Bible. Because we always borrow from the greater knowledge base of our culture when we're trying to put things together, because there's just some things that we think are true because our culture tells us they're true, and it happens in every generation of the church. So when the Bible talks about the unchangingness of God, what does that mean? And what I would argue is what the Bible's talking about is that God's consistent. And it's God's consistency that causes him to behave in certain ways. So Jonah's complaint about, I knew that you would forgive these people if they just repented. Because you'd ask the question, well, God said he's going to destroy the city in 30 days. Didn't God know? I mean, can God change his mind? Is God allowed to relent if God is immutable? And the answer is yes, because God is consistent. God always leans towards mercy and everything that he does, because that's the heart of God. And if God was not going to forgive someone who asked for forgiveness, God would be inconsistent towards himself. One of my favorite verses is in Timothy, where it says that if we confess him before others, he'll confess us. If we deny him, he'll deny, us. If we are faithful to him, he'll be faithful to us. And I love this line. And if we are unfaithful to him, he will still be faithful to us, because he cannot deny himself. It's just God's character. God can't help but be faithful to his people, because that's just how God is. So now in prayer, and I'm asking God, what will you do here? What will you do there? Can you do this? Can you do that? And God responds to my prayer, is he being inconsistent or consistent with who he is? Now, that's one way of looking at it. Another way is this. When I come to God in prayer, and let me tell you first, I'm someone who prays for things, and I mean things, like not, I want a car. No, I mean, I pray for things to happen. I pray for, I have needs. I know a young man that is a friend of the family, just tried to commit suicide. I'm going to God in prayer for this young man, right? God, you got to do something for him, please. So there's prayer going on where I pray for things to happen. But I also recognize that the prayer is not this one-way exchange between me and God, but the ultimate result of the prayer is that as I remain in relationship with God, I get to the place where I always end with, your will be done. And that I find that God's will now becomes my will. And it's not necessarily the other way around. God, I want you to see things my way. It's no, God, here's what my way is. Here's what I'm asking for. Here's what breaks my heart that I believe concerns you because of how consistent you are with who you are. But at the end of the day, I have to see it your way. And that in prayer, I'm also the one who's being changed. Just like this. I got married late in life. And so that's part of the story is, I got married when I was 37. And I got to tell you, when people who are old get married, it is a hard marriage because you're already set in your ways, right? So I get married, I'm 37, I got to learn to do things differently, and I was fine before I got married, right? But now the house has to look different because I got a wife. And I'm like, but it was fine before. In that relationship, I change. Right? It changes me. Why do married people start to look alike? There's actually a reason for that over the years, they actually start mimicking each other. And part of the reason they look alike is I find myself quoting my wife at times in weird ways because I hear her say this so much now I'm starting to say it. In relationship with God and prayer, I'm being changed. And God is the one who's the stronger partner. And that's a good thing because I was created in the image of God. And the more I reflect God, the more I become me. And less not me.